This video is brought to you by Squarespace, the website builder with all the tools you need to create your own site to showcase and sell artwork. The results are in for the April Prokochallenge. You guys had to pick a passage from a book and illustrate it. Professional illustrator and concept artist Vance Kovacs was the judge. He picked the winners, and now we're going to announce and celebrate them with readings by Marshall Vandruff using his magnificent radio voice. Okay, Marshall.
Prologue. Once an old man in a land far away, trapped in his house in California, on a warm summer day, was going stir-crazy. Bored out of his brain when his phone texted,
"Wanna do voiceover again?"
A new Prokochallenge was ready to blossom, but it needed narration to make it more awesome. The man cleared his throat and shouted, "Hooray! A voice acting gig, and Proko will pay." He visited Proko.com/Prokochallenge and almost gave up when he couldn't find rhymes for Prokochallenge. But that's all. Irrelevant. Enjoy, good viewers, you're in for a treat. Marshall is reading. Please take your seat. Chapter 1, Honorable Mentions. Frankenstein, by Mary Shelley. I had admired the perfect forms of my cottagers, their grace, beauty, and delicate complexions. But how was I terrified when I viewed myself in a transparent pool. At first I started back, unable to believe that it was indeed I who was reflected in the mirror. And when I became fully convinced that I was in reality the monster that I am, I was filled with the bitterest sensations of despondence and mortification. Alas, I did not yet entirely know the fatal effects of this miserable deformity. The Fellowship of the Ring by JRR Tolkien. From the ashes a fire shall be woken, a light from the shadow shall spring, renewed shall be blade that was broken, the crownless again shall be king. The Shadow over Innsmouth by H.P. Lovecraft. I think their predominant color was a grayish green. Their forms vaguely suggested the anthropoid, while their heads were the heads of fish with prodigious bulging eyes that never closed. At the sides of their necks were palpitating gills. They were the blasphemous fish frogs of the nameless design, living and horrible. The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. As Gregor Samsa awoke one morning from uneasy dreams, he found himself transformed in his bed into a gigantic insect. The Last Unicorn by Peter S. Beagle. He ran, the unicorn said. You must never run from anything immortal that attracts their attention. Her voice was gentle and without pity. Never run, she said. Walk slowly and pretend to be thinking of something else. Sing a song, say a poem, do your tricks, but walk slowly and she may not follow. Walk very slowly, magician. So they fled across the night together, step by step, the tall man in black and the horned white beast. The magician crept as close to the unicorn's light as he dared, for beyond it moved hungry shadows, the shadows of the sounds that the harpy made as she destroyed the little there was to destroy of the Midnight Carnival. And here's one from the Proko team, A Fire Upon the Deep by Vernor Vinge. The west edge of their landing area was swarming with things like wolves or dogs, but with long necks. They moved quickly forward, darting from hummock to hummock. Their pelts were the same gray-green of the hillside, except near their haunches where she saw white and black. No, the green was clothing, jackets. Johanna was in shock, the pressure of the bolt through her chest not yet registering as pain. She had been thrown back against up-tilted turf and for a moment had a view of the whole attack. She saw more arrows rise up, dark lines floating in the sky. She could see the archers now. More dogs! They moved in packs. It took 2 of them to use a bow, 1 to hold it, 1 to draw. The 3rd and 4th carried quivers of arrows and just seemed to watch. Chapter 2, Runners Up. Tower of Babylon by Ted Chiang. None of them had seen the tower before. It became visible when they were still leagues away. A line as thin as a strand of flax wavering in the shimmering air, rising up from the crust of mud that was Babylon itself. As they drew closer, the crust grew into the mighty city walls, but all they saw was the tower. When they did lower their gazes to the level of the river plain, they saw the marks the tower had made outside the city. The Euphrates itself now flowed at the bottom of a wide, sunken bed dug to provide clay for bricks. To the south of the city could be seen rows and rows of kilns, no longer burning. As they approached the city gates, the tower appeared more massive than anything Halalam had ever imagined. A single column that must have been as large around as an entire temple, yet rising so high that it shrank into invisibility. All of them walked with their heads tilted back, squinting in the sun. The Reluctant Dragon by Kenneth Grahame. He was as big as 4 cart horses, and all covered with shiny scales, deep blue scales at the top of him and shading off to a tender sort of green-yellow below. As he breathed, there was that sort of flicker over his nostrils like you see over our chalk roads on a baking windless day in summer. "What's your mind always occupied about?" asked the boy. "That's what I want to know." The dragon colored slightly and looked away. Presently he said bashfully,
"Did you ever, just for fun, try to make up poetry verses, you know?"
Before Tomorrow by Jorn Riel. While grunting, it threw its paw toward the floating smoke and cowered, ready to attack. Then, Ninyak dived her hand into the flames and she got up screaming furiously and throwing twigs toward the bear. The bear howled savagely in surprise. The flaming twigs had touched his head and he felt a terrible burn on his nose and eyes. The Warrior Behind the Cherry Tree by David B. Gill. The confrontation was inevitable. Those men were determined to kill them. Thank heaven, Kenzaburo thought. The archer had made the mistake of letting go of his bow and unsheathing his sword, giving him a chance. He began to back away from his badly wounded mount, keeping his distance with the 2 attackers in front of him as he inevitably approached the one behind him. He indicated Saizo to lie down on the ground and he obeyed immediately. The saddlebags and firewood had been scattered along the way, and the warrior approached them as he spoke to distract his contenders. "Tell me then, if I am General Arima, what makes you think you could defeat me?" The 3 raiders exchanged a glance. For the first time, that man did not speak like a simple woodcutter, which seemed to corroborate their suspicions. The samurai leaned over a wooden pack, and reaching into the trunks, he drew out a rag-wrapped sheath. His assailants suddenly became tense. Kenzaburo stood up, holding the sheathed katana with his left hand. "You no longer face a firewood seller. You must kill General Arima. Let's see if you are capable." All the Pretty Horses by Cormac McCarthy. Long before morning, I knew that what I was seeking to discover was a thing I'd always known, that all courage was a form of constancy. That is always himself that the coward abandoned first. After this, all other betrayals come easily. Chapter 3, The Winners. Bash Chalik, a Serbian fairy tale. When he entered inside, he witnessed a remarkable sight. There was a man in the room, chained in iron up to his knees with both hands ironed to the wall up to his elbows. He was chained so strong he couldn't move an inch. Suddenly, Man of Iron jumped like a bolt, spread his wings, flew, and disappeared out of sight. "Do not," shouted the Emperor, "try to follow him. You do not understand who Man of Iron is. Many treasures and armies have I lost before I could capture him." Fairies by Brian Froud and Alan Lee. The Spriggans stamped towards Tom, getting bigger and bigger as they approached. Their fearsome aspect so appalled Tom that he fled back to his comrades, roused them, and urged them to put to sea for their lives. As they ran towards the boat, a hail of small stones rained on them and burned like coals of fire wherever they hit them. The men were so frightened that they pulled far out to sea before they dared look back, although they knew they were safe, as no Spriggan dares touch salt water. When they did cast a glance behind them, they saw an army of the ugliest-looking creatures possible lined along the shore, making threatening gestures. Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. She pulled in her horizon like a great fishnet, pulled it from around the waist of the world and draped it over her shoulder. So much of life in its meshes, she called in her soul to come and see. Mistborn, The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. Shan jumped forward smiling, her long black hair flaring in the air. Vin gritted her teeth. She didn't have much choice. She burned atium. Immediately, Shan's form shot forth dozens of phantom atium shadows. It was a Mistborn standoff. The first one who ran out of atium would be vulnerable. You couldn't escape an opponent who knew exactly what you were going to do. Vin scrambled backward, keeping an eye on Shan. The noblewoman stalked forward, her phantoms forming an insane bubble of translucent motion around her. She seemed calm, secure. Rocket Summer by Ray Bradbury. The rocket lay on the launching field, blowing out pink clouds of fire and oven heat. The rocket stood in the cold winter morning, making summer with every breath of its mighty exhausts. The rocket made climates, and summer lay for a brief moment upon the land.
Hey, thanks Marshall for reading those passages, and thank you to Squarespace.
Hey, what are you doing?
Marshall, this isn't your sponsor.
Put that down.
Yes, sir.
Okay, where was I? If you're in the market for a new website, you need to check out Squarespace. Look, your website should look as good as you do. You may say, Marshall, that's an impossible standard. No, that might be true, but Squarespace is also quite the showstopper. They've spent a lot of time and money to craft sexy, sleek website designs that you can customize to your liking. On top of that, they offer dependable 24/7 support to keep your website running in tip-top shape. And if you're an artist who wants to make some money, Squarespace also has tools to help you sell your work. So many people are already using Squarespace to stand out online. If you're interested in starting your own website, go to squarespace.com for a free trial. And if you like what they offer, you can save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain by using this link, squarespace.com/Proko. Well, that about wraps it up, doesn't it? Hope you enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for more Draftsman episodes. Stan tells me he's going to eventually put me in a... What is that thing, Stan? TikTok. Whatever that means. Bye, guys. See y'all.